The date is March 22nd, 2013. The time is 2:03 p.m. We are on the record.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give in the case now pending will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Would you state your name, please?
Alana Croker.
And what is your age, Ms. Croker?
Right now, it's 54.
It's 54? Okay. Where were you born?
Enid, Oklahoma.
And how long have you lived here in the Kemah area?
Probably 20 years or so.
Okay. What is the address of your business?
1442 Highway 146.
And your residence?
3009 Cloverdale, League City.
Are you married?
No, I am not.
Divorced?
Yes, I am.
You have any children still living with you?
Yes, I do.
1, 2, 3?
One.
I see. A daughter?
Daughter.
Okay. What is your occupation?
I'm a realtor.
And are you a broker or
Just
an agent?
Just an agent.
And who is your broker?
Keller Williams Realty, Lee Patterson.
How long have you had a real estate agent's license?
About 23 years.
Is that your only occupation?
Yes, it is.
At the business address you recited earlier, do you own that property?
Yes, I do.
And do you have employees there?
One.
One? Mm-hmm. And what is his name or her name?
Natasha DeVore, she's my assistant.
How long has she worked for you?
I think we're going on 3 years.
Have you ever had an opportunity or a situation where you gave a deposition before?
No.
Well, let me talk about it a little bit. I'm sure that you've probably heard a little bit about it, but the process here is, as you know, we have a videographer here, and he's recording visually everything that we say here, and also audio, of course. And then the court reporter here on my right is taking down everything that we say on the record, as we call it,
Okay.
which means that as we are right now, you are under oath, just like if we were in a court of law. You were sitting on the witness stand
Okay.
with a judge beside you. You have to tell the truth exactly as you would in that courtroom. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
And this will be recorded and put in the form of a booklet and may and probably will be used in a trial of this matter. You
Okay.
understand that?
Yes.
And I believe that Sam Finnegan, who's Mr. Wiggins' attorney, said that you were going to read and sign. Is that correct? You're not going to read the deposition after it's given? You're not going to sign it?
I have
I
no
think
knowledge
I said
of that.
no. I mean,
Oh, you
she's
said
not
no?
She's not my
Okay.
witness anyway.
Right, she's not your witness. Do you understand what read and sign means?
I do not.
You would have an opportunity to receive a copy of the transcription that's being taken here. And you can read it at your leisure. You'll have a number of days in which you can read it. And if you see anything in it that you believe was a mistake in the record, the way that either the court reporter recited my question or your answer or Mr. Finnegan's statements, objections, or whatever that's on the record, you'll be able to fill out what's called an errata sheet. In that errata sheet, you can enter what you believe to be the error that was in the transcript.
Okay.
Would you like to read and do that?
I think so.
Okay. Well, we'll see that you have that opportunity.
Okay.
During the deposition, the court reporter, as I mentioned, is taking down everything that you're saying, so she's going to need to have a verbal response from you.
Okay.
Okay? And a or looks like the same on a transcription.
Okay.
So as you make your responses, if you would make them so they're clear, that will help the record, all right?
Okay.
Okay. Finally, as I ask you questions, if you can wait until I finish my question to make your response, it will make it easier for the court reporter to make sure she transcribes both my question and your answer or response.
Okay.
Now, are you aware of the lawsuit that we're taking your deposition in today?
Not really.
Have you read the petition that Mr. Judge Foster had filed, he and his wife filed against Matt Wiggins?
The only thing I read was the subpoena for me to come here today.
Okay. Let me hand you Exhibit 1 and ask you if that is a copy of what you were provided.
Yes.
Okay. And you signed it?
Yes.
That you received it? Okay. Now, it had a different date on it. How did you know that we'd changed the date? Mr. Wiggins tell you?
Mr. Wiggins.
Okay. It also asks that you bring some documents with you, and we'll get to that after a little bit. But, so I take it if Mr. Wiggins told you the date had been changed, and he discussed your testimony here today.
Somewhat.
You're here without an attorney today, is that correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. Finnegan is not representing you to your understanding, right?
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Wiggins is a trained attorney. You're aware of that, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
But he doesn't practice law, right?
Correct.
He's in real estate,
Yes.
and you're in real estate.
Yes, sir.
And you've been working with him for how many years?
Probably a good 10 to 11.
Okay. How many, during those 10 or 11 years, how many transactions have you helped Mr. Wiggins with as an agent?
I don't know the total number. I don't know.
Okay. Would you say more than 10? More than one a year?
Probably not that many that actually have closed and funded.
Okay. So, how many would you say have closed and funded?
Well, it's 7 to 8.
Okay. So your estimate of more than 10 would relate to a number of deals that did not close?
Probably so, yes.
Would you think were more than 20?
No.
Okay. In the transactions that you have assisted Mr. Wiggins with, has he either been the buyer or the seller?
Yes.
And does Mr. Wiggins presently have property that you have sold him?
That he was the buyer?
He was the buyer.
That he
yes.
currently owns? Yes.
Okay, can you describe those that he currently owns?
1626 Sealy, the True
And-
Castle in Galveston.
That is known as a bed and breakfast or something of that nature?
Event type.
Events type.
Yeah.
Okay, what is that address again?
1626 Sealy.
How long ago was that transaction?
I'm going to have to correct myself in that because he actually bought that at a foreclosure. But I
Okay.
did list the property, so it was nothing that I helped him purchase. 'What's the Bradford address? 811 Bradford, Unit 5B.
Okay.
612 8th Street in Kemah.
Okay.
503 Bay Avenue in Kemah. To my knowledge, it's the only ones I can think of.
Pardon?
Those are the only ones I can think of that.
Okay. Did you play any role as an agent in the ZZ Top House, which commonly known as the ZZ Top House that he owns?
Yes,
Okay, is that,
that's one of those.
that's
yeah.
another one? Oh,
Yes.
that's one of these?
No,
That's another one?
addition, in addition.
Okay. What about the house that's commonly known as the Beach House, the one that was in extreme makeovers? Do you have anything to do with that property?
I have it listed.
You have it listed now? Okay. When did you list it?
Probably 2 months ago
And did you list it for Mr. Wiggins?
with Larry and Melissa Beach.
For the Beach family?
Mhm.
Okay. And how did you come to meet the Beach family?
Referral from Matt Wiggins.
All right. Do you know Mr. Mark and Judy Foster?
I do.
How do you know them?
We used to be friends.
And you used to be, you're not friends anymore?
You would have to ask them, I would think not.
Okay, but do you feel like they're not your friends anymore?
Correct.
Would one of the reasons be that you were subpoenaed here today?
No.
Okay. When did you meet them?
I met Mark and Judy years ago when I was married to Wes Croker. Mark and my ex-husband, played golf together.
Mm-hmm. And when was it that you divorced?
2000, August 2000.
So you were friends with Mark and Judy Foster back before August of 2000?
Yes.
When did you meet Matthew Wiggins?
Met him, I believe it was in 2001, February or March of 2001.
What was the occasion for meeting him?
I was at the same restaurant him and Mark Foster were having lunch at. I went by to say hello to Mark, and he introduced me to Matt.
Okay. And then later on, I assume Mr. Wiggins contacted you about helping him with real estate
Yes.
deals? Okay. I guess you might need to close that if that noise continues. Yeah, let's close the door. How many transactions in real estate have you handled for either Mark and/or Mark and Judy Foster?
To my recollection, I think these right here was about probably 6 transactions.
Okay. Can you describe them generally by address or whatever?
206 Avenue A. I was the listing agent on that.
Was that Avenue A or 8?
A as an apple.
Okay. Who else?
705 Bay Avenue. 1460 Highway 146. And 309 and 310 3rd in Kemah.
As far as 206 Avenue A, could you describe for the jury, is that residential or
That is
commercial?
residential, and they were the sellers.
Okay. And did they actually sell that property then?
Yes, I did.
And you received a commission?
Yes, I did.
And 705 Bay, what was your transaction, involvement in that transaction?
The buyer's agent,
Okay, and who was the buyer?
Mark Foster.
1460 Highway 146.
Commercial land.
And were you representing the buyer or the seller?
The Fosters were the sellers.
309 and 310 3rd in Kemah.
Had the buy side and also the list side for lease, list for lease.
And is that commercial or residential?
Commercial.
Does it have a commercial name? Is it a business that?
It currently does.
And what is it?
Allen's Swamp Shack.
Okay. Did you have any involvement at all in assisting a limited liability company by the name of P&L Development?
No.
Are you familiar with that LLC?
I think it's an LLC that Mark and Matt had together, I believe.
Okay. And do you know what its business was?
If I'm correct, it's where Bubba's Shrimp Palace is now. I think there were some transactions that they might have bought, to my best of my memory.
Okay. And how would you know that?
Discussions with Matt.
the discussions with Matt, and can we just agree that when we say Matt, we're talking about Matt Wiggins?
Yes.
And just for the record, Alana, I've met you before, right?
Yes, I have.
And you know that I represent Mark and Judy Foster in this case. So may I call you Alana?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And I'll refer to the Fosters as Mark and Judy, if that's all right with you.
That's fine with me.
Okay. Are you familiar with, through your discussions with Matt, other businesses that he may have been involved with Mark or Mark and Judy Foster, other than the one that we talked about that P&L Development owned?
I'm not sure of the question, but Mark and Matt have bought real estate together for several years
Okay.
under personal names, no corporate names.
Have you ever heard of Black Jack 2? Black Jet 2 LLC?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with any of the real estate that Mr. Wiggins has an interest in out in Las Vegas, Nevada?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you've gone to Las Vegas for the Keller Williams conferences in the past?
Years ago, yes.
You haven't gone recently?
To a Keller Williams convention in Vegas, no.
When was the last time you were in Las Vegas?
February 22nd for my daughter's birthday.
And did Mr. Wiggins pay any part of your trip out there?
No.
You paid for it yourself?
Yes.
Was Mr. Wiggins there?
Yes.
But you do not know anything about the real estate that he has involvement with in Las Vegas. Is that my understanding?
No, I did go see the house that,
Okay.
that I had referred it out to be listed out there.
And do you remember the address of that house?
I do not.
Has Matt discussed with you his current relationship with Mark and Judy, as far as whether they're getting along or not?
Yes.
And what has he told you?
They haven't spoken over a year.
And did he tell you the reason why?
I think he doesn't totally understand the reason why.
Okay. But he's given you some ideas, his concept or his side of it, right?
I'm not sure his side of it.
His understanding of it, let's say. He's given you his understanding of it.
Yes.
And what does it involve? Why did these friends break up, their friendship?
Wayne Deltrafino investigation.
So did Mr. Matt say to you that the things that Mark Foster said to Wayne Deltrafino caused Matt not to trust him anymore?
No.
Well, what was it that Mark would have said to Wayne Deltrafino that upset Matt?
To my understanding, there was nothing that Mark said to Wayne that upset Matt.
Okay, well, what was it about Wayne Deltrafino's report?
Unfortunately, it caused, I think, obviously a good friendship to break up over nothing. I think, in my opinion, that Mark, because of his association, his friendship with Matt, put him also under a little bit of, scrutiny and, checking things out with Mark. Matt certainly never threw him under the bus. That was never Matt's intent at all. And I think that, in my opinion, that Mark took it, that Matt did, wounded ego and I think it's a shame.
Okay. Well, you were directly involved, as you testified earlier, in a couple of the transactions between Mark and Judy, or Mark and Judy and Matt. Let me say that again. Either between Mark and Matt or Mark and Judy and Matt. For example, the house at 705 Bay, you were the agent on that house, correct?
Correct.
On the transaction of that house.
Correct.
And you actually obtained an earnest money contract that was submitted to the seller of that house on behalf of the Fosters, correct?
Correct.
Now, describe for the jury what 705 Bay is.
It's a house on the bay in Kemah, Texas, residential home.
Do you have any memory as to how large that house is, or can you generally describe what it looks like?
Probably around 4,500 to 5,000 square feet, stucco, cement type home.
Is it a house that is one that would be easy to sell? Did you find it easy to sell that house?
In the condition it was in, at the price, it was very easy to sell.
Okay. And how did you approach the Fosters to talk to them about buying it?
It's Matt's idea. Matt wanted the house, and it was a good buy.
Okay. And so Matt told you to go see the Fosters?
He asked me to write an offer up on the house, cash offer, in Mark's name.
And did you do that?
I did.
Were you the only agent that was involved on the side of the buyers? In other words, did your broker get involved?
Yes.
How was he involved?
My broker, Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Lee is a she.
She, okay.
Any paperwork that we do gets turned in to the office, and then upon, we have what we call distribution authorization for the commissions to be dispersed.
Mm-hmm. So what office is it turned into?
The current address is 18050 Saturn Lane in Nassau Bay.
You've been handed Exhibit 2 to your deposition. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that? Can you describe it?
These are emails that took place on the purchase of the Bay House.
And when you say the Bay House, that's 705 Bay? Who is Fred Castleman Badia?
He was the listing agent.
He had listed it for the seller?
Yes.
And do you recognize the name? Is that Jennifer Casbon? Is that your broker? Who is that?
That I do not know. She might have been someone from a title company.
What title company did this close at?
Don't know. It was one that the bank picked. I believe it may have even been in Dallas. Yeah, LCI Title Agency in Irving.
Who attended that closing?
The document. No one went to Irving.
Okay. How then did it?
They did a mail out.
A mail out. So was there a promissory note involved in a deed of trust?
Yes.
And who was the bank that was taking the deed of trust?
The bank that, I'm not sure of the question, the bank that was taking the deed of trust.
Right. If there was a note and deed of trust, I assume that the Fosters signed the note and deed of trust. Is that right?
They might have signed a deed of trust. The money came from Matt. It was a cash transaction.
Okay.
A deed of trust would have been signed by Mark.
Okay. So what you just said now, Matt Wiggins is the one that came up with the cash for Mark and Judy to buy this property?
Yes.
And do you know how that transaction occurred?
To my knowledge, Matt put the money into Mark's account. That may not be totally correct, but that seems how I remember it.
Okay. Well, what did Matt tell you about paying for a house that was going in the name of Mark and Judy Foster?
Matt and Mark do a lot of transactions together that get in different names.
Like more than 705 Bay?
Yes. I mean, 1460 Highway 146, it's in Mark's name. It's Matt's money.
Okay. And how about
The Las
310
Vegas.
Texas Avenue in Kemah?
Same thing.
Same thing? So what, do you know this for a fact, or is this what Mark told you, or Matt told you, that it was Mark, or it was Matt's money that paid for all of these properties?
It was Matt's money.
Okay. Have you seen a copy of those cashier's checks before that's on Exhibit 3?
And they're probably in my file. Yes.
LSI title for $10,000, the top of Exhibit 3, has remitter Mark Foster, $10,000. Did Mark ever tell you that was Matt's money?
No.
Only Matt told you that?
Yeah.
Do you have anything in your file to indicate that Matt Wiggins provided the $10,000 that is in cashier's check at the top of Exhibit 3?
No.
So you're relying entirely on what Matt told you?
Yes.
Would the same thing be true with the second check, which is for $240,000?
Yes.
That was, Matt told you it was his money.
He put the money in Mark's account.
Okay. Why would he do that? Did he ever tell you why he would do that for someone?
No.
Do you have an opinion? Was it just because they're good friends?
I don't think that Matt was buying him a house for $250,000, but
Well, why didn't Matt buy it?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Matt.
Would it have anything to do that he was on the city council at that time of Kemah?
It may have. I can't answer that.
Did Matt ever tell you that it had something to do with that?
No.
Did you ever question him why he was putting up the money for Mark?
No.
Did Mark ever say to you why?
No.
Well, you and Judy were friends at that time. Did Judy ever tell you why?
No.
Would the same thing be true about 310 Texas Avenue? That Matt told you he put up the money, but you have no independent knowledge of that?
That would be true.
And there's nothing in your file that would indicate that Matt Wiggins put the money up for 310 Texas Avenue in Kemah?
No.
You've been handed Exhibit 4. You take a look at that and tell me if you know what that is.
It's from the closing, the mark on 705 Bay. It's one of the bank's forms.
Okay. It's Chase Home Finance LLC. What role did Chase Home Finance LLC play in the closing? Were they the seller?
They would have been the seller.
It is styled addendum to contract for sale. Now, you know what a contract for sale is, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us, is it where someone does not receive a deed until the property is paid off? Is that how a contract for deed works?
Yes.
You don't get a warranty deed till you pay the contract off, right?
Okay.
So why was there a contract for sale in this transaction? If Matt Wiggins put the money up, why would they need a contract for sale? Do you know?
No.
Been handed Exhibit 5. Have you ever seen that before, or a copy of it?
Yes, I have.
And what is it?
It's a 1-to-4 family residential contract for resale.
Is it a earnest money contract on that property?
Yes.
And is it the one that you obtained from the Fosters to submit to Chase Home Finance?
This would have been submitted to the listing agent, and he submits it to his seller.
You've been handed Exhibit 6. Can you tell us what that is?
Looks like it's generated from the title company regarding the closing.
This would be the title company referred to earlier where the closing occurred on 705 Bay?
Yes.
Okay. And Judy Davidson, do you know her?
I do not. I think she works for the title company.
Were you paid a commission in this transaction?
Yes, I was.
How much did you make?
3% off the sales price.
3% off $250,000. What was that property worth at that time? $250,000?
At best.
It was? Okay. So, did you give Matt Williams any part of your 3% back?
No.
Did you give the Fosters any part of the 3% back?
No.
Going back to the earnest money contract for a minute. Would it surprise you to know that the Fosters deny that they initialed these pages?
Would not surprise me.
And why does it not surprise you?
I signed it with permission and direction.
From?
Mark?
So Mark and Judy Foster told you to put their initials on it?
I called it because Matt wanted to put this in Mark's name to verify Matt would like to buy this property in Mark's name. And then I asked Mark, do you want to come down and sign it? We could send it over, and he said, just sign for me.
Mark said that. Would you say you did a pretty good job of mimicking their initials?
Probably not.
Okay. Well, why would you do it the way you did it? I mean, obviously, it looks like you were trying to make the two initials look different.
I was trying to make the two initials look different.
Yes. I mean, would you not agree that the initials do not look identical, like the same person initialed it?
They don't look identical, the same person initial. No, this was all me. That's my
That's the way you initial everything?
I was initialing for Mark.
Uh-huh. Were you trying to make it look like his initials and Judy's initials?
Judy's initials are not on here, it's just Mark's.
Okay.
And that may not be his writing assistant, MAF, just an initial.
Okay. So you're saying you didn't need Judy's initials on here?
Correct, it's just in Mark's name.
What about the seller? Who is JK?
That would have whoever initialed on behalf of the bank.
So you didn't enter those initials?
No. It's whoever was part of the bank there, as a trustee.
And on the page that's the addendum for the coastal area property, last page,
Yes.
did you transcribe Mr. Foster's signature there?
Yes.
How long before you signed it did he give you permission to do that?
How long did,
How, did he tell you, when you had it in front of you and you were going to submit it to the bank, the seller, did you call and ask him to sign it, initial it, or did you immediately do it at his instructions?
after his instructions, I called first
Okay, you called him?
to see if he wanted to come sign, fax it, email it.
And he said, just sign my name?
Yeah.
And what day would that have been?
That I don't know. Is it depending on when it went back to them to get signatures? I don't know if I put a date on the contract or not. It looks like I did not.
But your understanding is that the seller accepted it in the form it's in,
Yes,
without a date on it?
yes.
Where did the earnest money come from, the $2,000?
It came from Matt.
Okay. And how did you receive it to send it with this contract?
Should have been a check, and usually I keep a copy of a check, but I don't think there is one in my file.
Who did he write the check to?
The check would have been made to the title company,
To who?
the title company, LSI.
Okay, you don't have a copy of it there?
I do not.
You've already looked?
We can look again. Yeah, I mean, sure.
That's okay, we'll go through it when
Okay.
we take a break. I just wondered if you had already looked to see if you could find it.
And actually, the earnest money was $10,000, not $2,000.
Okay, look at the last page.
And that would have been the copy on Exhibit 3.
Okay. Look at the last page of the earnest money contract before the information about brokerage service page. It says...
Page 8?
It says, contract and earnest money receipt. They receipted $2,000.
I probably have another, I have a copy of when they actually filled it in.
Mm-hmm.
This 2,000 might have just been a glitch in the system if it had been in it before it spilled over, but I know I have a copy in the file where the title company had receipted it.
Okay.
Because on page 1 of the contract, the earnest money says $10,000, which is that check.
Mm-hmm. Well, the next page, which is information about brokerage service, that's required by TREC, isn't it?
It is.
And is that, whose signature is on that?
It is mine for Mark's.
How many times have you done that for your clients, where you've initialed?
If instructed to, I will. If they're in a situation they can't get to it, and I have a good working relationship with them, I will.
Do you ever later acquire anything in writing to protect yourself?
No, but I should.
Okay. Because you could lose your license with TREC,
I could.
couldn't you?
I could.
You've been handed Exhibit 7. Can you identify it?
It says disclosure and release regarding mold addendum to sales contract.
What is it why does this have to be signed? And is it something that has to be submitted based on TREC requirements
This was required from the seller.
from the seller?
It's one of their forms, just to kind of protect themselves, that you've been made aware that you can get a mold inspection done.
And did Mark Foster sign this one?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
He did sign it. So that is his signature.
I don't recall signing this one on behalf of Mark, to be honest, but I may have.
Okay. Did Chase Home Finance know that you were signing for the buyer?
No.
How about their broker? Did their broker know you were signing for the buyer?
No.
Wouldn't that have made a difference to them, whether they wanted to close the deal, not knowing whether or not the buyer had consented to all of the terms and all of these documents?
Objection form.
Buyer showed up at closing.
Been handed Exhibit 8. Do you recognize Exhibit 8?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a form kind of cautioning about lead warning statement. Again, it's kind of a catch-all. Buyer has the right to do a lead-based inspection if they want to.
Okay. Did Mark Foster initial under buyer's acknowledgement 3B?
No, I did.
You did that too? Did you know whether or not there was lead-based paint in that house?
That house is too young to have lead-based paint.
Okay, so based on that, that's why you were sure that you could initial this for Mark Foster?
Yes.
You've been handed Exhibit, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay. You've been handed Exhibit 9. Can you tell the jury what Exhibit 9 is?
It's a settlement HUD statement for the closing of 705 Bay.
When this house was closed, was Mark Foster the only buyer, or did Judy join him?
Mark was the only buyer.
Who lives in there today? 705 Bay.
To my understanding, Judy, Mark Foster, and family.
Is it in livable condition today?
I would have no idea.
You haven't been in it?
I have not.
Since this transaction, which occurred, let's see, is it dated here? Do we know?
October 19th?
Okay.
Or 16th, I'm sorry.
2009?
Yes.
The settlement date, it says October the 16th. Disbursement date, October the 16th. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. You haven't been in that house since then?
No.
Were you friends with the Fosters after October the 16th, 2009?
Yes.
When did your friendship become less than a friendship?
After the sale of their 206 Avenue A house.
What happened in that sale that made them upset, if you know?
I don't know.
But you handled that sale.
I did.
Where is that property located?
San Leon.
Who owns it today?
I don't recall his name, the family's name.
Is it property that Mr. Wiggins owns some adjacent land to?
Mr. Wiggins does have some land adjacent to it, yes.
And do you know where Mr. Wiggins bought that land? Who he bought it from?
I do not.
Okay, looking again at Exhibit 9. says settlement charges to the buyer, $350. What would that have been for?
What, in the first page?
Yes, on the first page, that's line 103.
It would have came from the second page, which looks like a settlement or closing fee to LSI Title.
Do you know who paid the $350?
What's on the buyer side?
Okay, but did Matt Wiggins pay it, or did Mr. Foster pay it?
It would have just came out of the net of what's owed. It's just a subtraction to get to the 223. It's a title company charge. It looks like it's split between buyer and seller. And it's not a fee, but it's paid separate.
The third page of Exhibit 9, can you describe what that is?
It's page 3 of the HUD statement.
So it's not actually part of the closing statement? Or is it part
It's part
of the settlement statement?
Part of the settlement HUD statement.
Okay. And what is its purpose, if you know?
Those are just signatures that they've read the HUD, they approve the HUD.
And is that Mark Foster's signature in your knowledge?
Yes, it is.
So it's your understanding this $250,000 was loaned by Matt to Mark Foster?
That is my understanding.
Has it been paid back to your understanding?
No, it has not, to my understanding.
Do you know anything about do you know what a 1099 is?
Like a 1099 miscellaneous?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's what someone sends out when they're either reporting that they have paid wages or contract wages or something.
Yes.
It can also be used by lending institutions to show a forgiveness of debt, correct?
I guess so. I don't know.
Have you ever had a settlement, say, with a credit card company where you paid less than what they demanded? Have you ever done that?
No.
Okay. Are you familiar with Exhibit 10?
Not really. I mean, release and hold harmless agreement. Again, I think it's a form from the bank on the house that was sold.
You were present when this transaction closed, I guess in your office, right?
No, I did not close my office, and no, I was not present.
Okay, where did it close?
I think Southland Title accommodated Mr. Foster to close it there.
Is that where the notary would have been?
Yes.
And do you know if his signature had to be notarized at any time?
Yes, it would have.
Was this release and hold harmless in the package that was sent from Chase or U.S. Bank to Southland Title, if you know?
I'm sure it was.
Okay. Did Mr. Foster ask you what this was for?
No.
Did you ever talk to Matt about a release and hold harmless agreement that Mark would have to sign?
No.
Are you familiar with a lawsuit that was styled 09 CV 1366 U.S. Bank as trustee et al. Versus City of Kemah and Matt Wiggins?
No.
So you have no idea why Matt was being sued by the company that sold this property to Mr. Foster?
That is correct.
So you're telling the jury you don't have any knowledge about why Mr. Wiggins would have wanted Mr. Foster to take $250,000 of Mr. Wiggins' money and buy this house? Want me to repeat that?
Would you?
Okay. And thank you, because that was one of the things I should have mentioned in the beginning. If you don't understand my question, please ask me to
Okay.
repeat it. It's your testimony that you have no knowledge, no other knowledge, other than that Mr. Wiggins loaned Mr. Foster $250,000 to buy this house. You don't know of any other reason Mr. Wiggins would have put out $250,000.
No, I do not.
Okay. And you have no reason to believe it had something to do with this lawsuit?
I have no idea.
Okay. You've been handed Exhibit 12?
11.
Okay. What is the exhibit number before that?
10.
Okay. So you have Exhibit 11 in front of you. Have you seen that before?
I have seen it before.
And can you tell the jury what it is?
It's something I believe the title company sends in with the package for all parties to sign so the transaction can fund.
Okay.
It is not typically anything that comes to my office, but it would be packaged up and sent to a title company.
Who is Judy Davidson?
She must be a closer for LSI Title Agency.
She's not connected with Southland Title, to your knowledge?
She is not.
Can you tell us why the cashier's check made payable to LSI Title Company was only in the amount of $223,024.08 if the transaction was for a $250,000 purchase?
You'd have to go back to that HUD settlement statement, and the
Okay.
charges would all be on there.
So, who sent the cashier's check to LSI Title? Would that have been Southland Title?
Whoever would have, I guess, because I wasn't at closing, but I would imagine they would have packaged everything up and overnighted the docs back to LSI.
Did you say that you might have a cashier's check from Mark Foster to LSI Title or Southland Title or somebody other than just a cashier's check made out to Mark Foster?
I think the only thing I have would be a copy of what you gave me on
What's that
Exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3? You don't have anything in your file that shows us where the source of the money came from, $223,024.08, cashier's check to LSI Title?
I don't believe so.
You've been handed Exhibit 12. Can you describe to the jury what Exhibit 12 is?
This is something that we turn into our office to give a breakdown of a transaction so that this is what they, from here, our MCA will distribute what they call a disbursement authorization of how the funds are supposed to be dispersed to the agents at closing.
Then Exhibit 13. Do you recognize Exhibit 13?
I do. It's something from looks like from the title company, from Judy Davison.
And it's receiving the earnest money, is it? that what its purpose is?
I don't think it's receipting it. It's just recording some information of how much earnest money is, if it's in the form of a check, if it's an HOA. It's an informational sheet for the title company.
Does it also indicate if a survey is needed?
Yes,
And it indicates that no survey was requested, is that right?
correct.
So Mr. Foster didn't ask you to get a survey for this property?
No,
Did you have one in your file?
no,
Do you know if one existed?
I do not.
Then it also, even though the block is not checked, it says, do we need to order the resale cert for the buyer? And it says no, correct?
Correct.
What is a resale cert?
It's when there's a homeowners association attached to a residential property, and they have what they call resale certification to make sure the HOA is in good standing. And to my knowledge, there's no HOA at 705 Bay.
Okay. 705 Bay is in Kemah, Texas, isn't it?
It is.
Within the corporate limits of that
Yes.
township. Okay. And it is true at the time of this transaction, Mr. Wiggins was on city council. You're aware of that, aren't you?
I would have to look at the dates. Probably so.
Okay. But you knew Mr. Wiggins at that time, right?
Yes, I do.
In fact, you and he have a personal relationship, don't you?
I'm not going to answer that.
Why not?
You have a personal relationship with Amy Kelly?
I'm not
I'm here to talk about real estate, not about a personal relationship.
Well, I'll tell you that the reason I asked that question is because one is entitled to know if you're being truthful and honest, and what reason you would have for stretching the truth.
I'm being truthful and honest.
Okay. So you do have a personal relationship with Mr. Wiggins,
We are friends, yes.
and you've had a personal relationship since Mr. Foster introduced you to him, or shortly thereafter.
We've had a friendship since then, yes.
Okay. You've had a dinner with him, right?
Yes, I do.
And you went to Las Vegas with him.
I went to Las Vegas with my girls, but I did go out a day early to go see the house.
And you've been to Las Vegas before this last trip with Mr. Wiggins.
And that has to do with what?
Your relationship with him and the reason that you favor him in your testimony, right?
No.
You're not favoring him in your testimony?
No.
Okay. You've been handed Exhibit 14.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
That is page 8 of the contract. This is the receipted page from the title company.
Okay. And when was the amount changed from 2,000 to 10,000?
Title company would have done that when they receipted it.
And at whose direction was it changed from 2,000 to 10,000?
From the title company. They received a check for $10,000, realizing the $2,000 is an error. They received $10,000 earnest money, so this is the title company, they received these.
So 10,000 was always the amount that the seller required as earnest money?
That I can't answer, I don't know.
Well, you were the
I mean, so
agent.
earnest monies can be $10,000, $5,000, $2,000. I think in this particular situation, our offer, I don't recall Fred Videla, the listing agent, telling me the earnest money had to have been 10. I don't even think I'd have an email regarding that. So I don't know who set that amount, if it was just part of the offer.
Mhm. Okay. So you're saying you don't know who decided it should be $10,000?
Correct, correct.
Did Mr. Foster tell you to make it $10,000?
I don't believe so.
Did Mr. Wiggins tell you to make it $10,000?
Probably so.
You have in front of you Exhibit 15?
Yes,
You
sir.
know what that is?
It looks like faxes from my office. To the title company, it looks like.
This is your office at 1442 Highway 146 in Kemah?
Yes, sir.
And do you own that property?
I do. Actually, the bank does, but
Who's the bank?
my note is with Patriot Bank.
And how long has it been with Patriot Bank?
Patriots had it for a year or two now. I refinanced it from Sterling.
And how long were you with Sterling Bank?
When I bought the property in 2006 or 7, whenever I bought it.
Who did you buy it from?
Believe the water board of Kemah.
Would that be WCID number 12?
Yes, sir.
And you think that was 2006?
I'm trying to remember when I started the office over there. Probably around then, it seems like.
How much did you pay for it?
I don't recall. I've got my closing papers. I just don't recall.
Was it $500,000?
No,
Less?
less.
How many acres do you have there?
Currently, I
I'm
have.
object form. Larry, what's this got to do with anything?
Just register your objection. Go ahead.
What was the question?
The question is, how many acres do you have there?
I don't know. It may be right at an acre. I really don't know.
Okay.
Probably a little less.
Do you use the entire acre for the real estate business?
No.
What else do you have on that property?
I have a warehouse, about 4,000 square feet that I lease. And then the other end I use as a parking cell lot.
Do you own the property where there's vehicles for sale?
The parking cell lot, yes.
That's yours also?
Yes, sir.
And do you receive rental for that?
Yes, I do.
And is that your money to keep, or do you give it to Mr. Wiggins?
It is my money to keep.
Okay, and it has been since the day you bought the property?
Absolutely.
And did not Mr. Wiggins also buy this property? Didn't he pay you, give you the money, or pay for it in any way?
He loaned me some money initially.
Uh-huh.
That has been paid back, and when I refinance it, everything is in my name with my money, my trail.
And how much did he loan you?
I don't recall. It was something like 5 or 10,000.
5 or 10,000?
5 or 10, it seems like.
So Sterling Bank actually financed the entire transaction at the beginning?
I bought them in different parcels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about all I recall of that. Seems like I bought the office, and then I had the opportunity to add on to that.
Okay. Was all of it bought around 2006 or earlier? Any part of it bought earlier?
I don't recall. I'd have to look at my closing papers.
Did the fact that Mr. Wiggins was on the water board at that time have any effect on your purchase of the property?
He let me know that it was becoming available for sale. I've been looking for a place to do an office, and he thought it might be a good investment for me, which it has been.
Okay. And was it presented to the water board for approval, the sale to you?
Yes.
And did Mr. Wiggins vote yes, that it should be sold to you?
I was not there. I would assume he did.
Okay. Let's take about a 10-minute break.
The time is 3:09 p.m. We are off the record. Time is 3:28 p.m. We are on the record.
Alana, you say that Mr. Wiggins, Matt, gave the money to Mark Foster to buy the 705 Bay house, correct?
Yes.
And he also gave the money to Mr. Foster, Mark Foster, to buy 310 Texas Avenue, right?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
Conversations with Matt.
Okay. Would you look at Exhibit 16 and tell me if you can identify it?
It's a commercial contract for improved property.
And did you initial Mark Foster's name on here?
Yes, sir.
And is it your testimony you did it at his direction?
Yes, sir.
Is it also your testimony that Mr. Wiggins loaned Mr. Foster the money to buy this property?
Yes.
Did he loan it to him or give it to him? Or was he intending on taking the property back at some point? Or do you know?
I don't know.
Has Mr. Wiggins ever told you that he wanted 310 Texas Avenue back?
Yes.
And when did he tell you that?
I don't recall. I think it was always his intent to keep it.
So he just used Mark Foster as a guise to buy it? He really was buying it for himself when he gave Mark Foster the money?
Section form?
I don't know.
Did he tell you that, I mean, you just said that it was always his intent to have the property.
I think so, to lease it out.
Well, did he tell you why he had to have it bought in someone else's name?
No,
Did it have anything to do with him being mayor, as far as you know?
I do not know.
You have any suspicions?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't remember when it was
Did
bought.
Matt Wiggins tell you that he had prepared some legal papers that he wanted Mark Foster to sign conveying 310 Texas Avenue in Kemah back to him?
No, I don't recall, no.
Did he discuss with you that he sent a demand letter to Mr. Foster demanding that he turn the property over to him?
No, I don't recall.
Did he ever tell you that he was planning on putting Mark Foster into involuntary bankruptcy?
No.
Well, do you know whether or not Mark Foster owes Matt Wiggins any money?
I don't know for a fact. I believe he does from the restaurant down at, in San Leon.
Do you owe him any money, Mr. Wiggins?
No, I do not.
You don't owe him any money?
No, I do not.
Did he go to Sterling Bank with you and co-sign your debt
No, he
when
did
you
not.
bought the property over at Patriot Bank?
Sterling, I do not recall. I don't think he did. I know Patriot, he did not.
Okay. Why did you go to Sterling Bank?
A referral from Matt, or a reference from Matt. He said, you know, I think at the time Frank Law was there, and I knew Frank, had a comfort level with him.
You had what kind of level with
A
him?
comfort level. I mean, I trust Frank.
Okay. Yeah, just have her one of them, the rest of them are mine. You've been handed Exhibit 17. Do you recognize it?
I do not.
Have you ever seen that letter before?
I have not.
Let's look at it a minute. It's dated November the 5th, 2012. Do you see that?
I do.
In the letter, by the way, at the bottom there, is that one of Mr. Wiggins' signatures, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, yes.
It says, I have advanced in excess of $2 million to our various enterprises and have a $600,000 deficiency on your restaurant judges, while you have left me holding the bag, while you are holding the assets that I have advanced money on. Do you know anything about that statement?
No, I do not.
You know he advanced money, right? Wiggins advanced money to Mr. Foster.
Yes.
And you know that he was in business with Matt, and Matt was in business with Mark in Judges, right?
Yes. Money-wise, Matt was in business with Mark, but not running the operations.
Okay. And do you know why it was called Judges?
After Judge Mark Foster?
Who is Bill King?
I've only met him a couple times. He's an attorney from Houston.
You see, next to number 1, it says 310 Texas deeded to MDW. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
MDW, would that be Matthew D. Wiggins?
I assume so.
And do you know if that's the same property you just told me about, that Mr. Wiggins always wanted it back?
Yes.
Here it says a note for $350,000 bearing interest at 8%, backdated. It doesn't say backdated, but it would be backdated if it was dated June the 1st, 2011, because this letter is dated November the 5th of 2012, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. Due on sale of 705 Bay. Now, 705 Bay, is it up for sale? Do you have it listed currently?
I do not.
Deed for a garage apartment. Is there a garage apartment at 705 Bay?
I believe there is.
Where is it?
Seems like there's the street across, like the house is on the water street, I guess, and then so across the street from the house.
Who lives in that apartment?
I don't know.
It says, I assume your Texas First bank loan on Highway 146. What is that all about?
I have no idea.
In that last paragraph, it says, as to your last texting blaming me for your defeat, King Clark obviously can't be beat. You did not help yourself by telling Galveston Daily News that you walked a $1.4 million loan, being a Matt victim for unpaid taxes, when the bill goes to your P.O. box. Is that comment there, is that what you were talking about, what broke up, in your opinion, your understanding, the friendship between Matt and Mark?
In my opinion, no, it was prior to that.
It was Wayne Deltrafino. So as far as exhibit, was it 16, the one before that?
The commercial contract?
Right. You had permission, that's your testimony, you had permission to initial that?
Yes, sir.
For Mark Foster?
Yes, sir.
Why was it that you had to always initial him for Mark Foster? He wasn't available?
Yeah, correct. Or didn't want to be available, just in easy, just, easy fix.
Okay. Well, since you say it was Matt Wiggins' money, did you ask Matt if it was all right for you to initial these earnest money contracts for Mark?
Did I ask Matt?
If
No.
it was okay? Because it was Matt's money, right?
Yes.
That was being offered, right?
Yes.
Did you ask Matt if $220,000 was what should be offered for 310 Texas Avenue?
Did I ask Matt?
Mm-hmm.
I think I did not ask Matt. I think Matt said it would be a good number to offer them.
But Mark didn't tell you to make it 220,000. Matt did, didn't he?
He did.
Okay, on the page 13 of 13, there's an escrow receipt.
Okay.
It says $2,000 earnest money. Is that right?
That's what it looks like?
In the form of a check, correct?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that check?
I do not know. I'd have to look at my file. I should.
Whose check was it?
I believe it was Matt's.
And you took this earnest money contract and Matt Wiggins' check for earnest money over to 1400 Nassau Parkway and gave it to StarTex Title, correct?
No, they probably picked it up from my office.
Okay. In any event, StarTex Title should have a copy of the check that
Yes.
has Matt Wiggins' name on it.
I don't believe Matt's checks have his name on it.
Just blank checks?
Yes.
As we sit here today, do you owe Matt Wiggins any money?
No, I do not.
Does he owe you any money?
He does not.
Why does he pay your taxes sometimes on the property you own, real property?
Sometimes he will if I'm in a bind, and I pay him back.
How often?
I really don't recall. The past 2 to 3 years, I've paid my own taxes.
Before that, you were struggling with your business and he had to pay your taxes?
Yes.
Did you pay him back?
Yes.
He didn't have to send you a 1099?
He did not.
Would you look at Exhibit 18 and tell me what it is, please, if you know?
It looks like a tax bill on one of the 146 properties that I own.
Is that where the cars are parked and being sold?
To be honest, I don't know the different parcel numbers. I'd have to know how they're each broke down. 1442 should have the physical address. The other 2 parcels, I don't know. This could be the end piece. And looking at the size, it's probably the parking cell lot.
Okay. And it shows a sales date of February the 21st, 2008. Is that about when you purchased that?
I thought it was earlier, but it could have been 2008.
It looks like you were having trouble paying taxes back in 2012. If you look at the last page, you paid 4 years of taxes on this property, 2008, 2009, 10, and 11. see that?
What is the question?
Question is, looks like you were having trouble paying your taxes in 2012. So did you get money to pay these taxes from Mr. Wiggins in 2012?
The way I'm looking at this, these are the taxes that I paid.
Right, but you paid them all on July the 31st, 2012, according to the county records. Did you pay them, or did Mr. Wiggins go down and pay them for you?
That I don't recall. I feel like I paid them. It says payer Alana Croker. That I would have to look at. I don't recall.
You look at Exhibit 19 and tell me if you can recognize it.
It's the tax records for 1442 Highway 146.
And that's where your business is?
Yes, sir.
Did you pay all of those taxes when due?
Probably not.
Did Mr. Wiggins pay some of them for you
At some point in time, he has, yes.
as recently as 2012?
I really don't recall if I paid them or he paid them.
All right. May I see that just a moment? What is Bayside Gallery?
I do not know.
Did you know they paid taxes for you? Did you look at page 3 of Exhibit 19? You see they paid your taxes for you 1 year.
I do not know who Bayside Gallery is.
Been handed Exhibit 20. Can you identify that?
Tax records for 4123 Fuquay, Baycliff.
Do you own that property?
I do.
What is that property?
It's an abandoned house currently.
You see on the third page, 2010, Matt Wiggins paid the property taxes for you there.
Okay.
He also paid the property taxes in 2007 on that property.
Okay.
Did he give you the money to buy that with his intention of you conveying it back to him at some point?
Of buying Fuquay?
Yes.
No.
You own it and you don't have any obligations to Matt Wiggins,
On it? No.
even though he paid some of the taxes. You don't owe him anything, right?
Correct.
Would you look at Exhibit 21 and tell me if you can identify that property?
It's on Highway 146. It may be the piece right next to my office where the warehouse is, if it has a building on it. Built in 1990, it's probably the,
Is Kemah Waterside Properties, you own that, is that right?
yes,
And is that incorporated? Is that a corporation?
it's an LLC.
LLC. When did you create it?
When I opened the office in 2006 or 7,
Did Mr. Wiggins prepare the paperwork for you?
no.
You've been handed Exhibit 22. Do you recognize Exhibit 22?
It's a tax statement of my personal residence at 3009 Cloverdale, Texas, League City.
Would you look at the third page, the bottom of the page? Do you see where the county recorded that Matthew D. Wiggins paid your taxes for the tax year 2006?
Okay.
Did he loan you the money, or did you pay him back?
I have paid him back.
How'd you pay him?
Just over time, a little monthly payment.
Been handed Exhibit 23. Do you know what Exhibit 23 is, a copy of?
It's a tax bill for a lot in San Leon, or 2 lots in San Leon.
Do you own those 2 lots?
I do.
How did you acquire them?
At a foreclosure or tax sale.
And that would have been back in 2005?
Probably. Looks like.
And then in 2007, Mr. Wiggins paid the taxes on it. Do you see that on the last page in payment information?
Okay.
Texas First Bank paid a bunch of them also. You see that on the last page of Exhibit 23?
Yes,
Do you bank at Texas First Bank?
I do.
Okay, at this time I would like to have an opportunity to look at your files so we can go off the record.
Time is 3:51 p.m. We are off the record.
Thank you.
The time is 4:13 p.m. We are on the record.
Alana, we're back on the record, and you have provided me 5 folders or envelopes of records in which you've responded to my subpoena for documents, correct?
Correct.
And the documents that you produced, one of which is in a red folder, 1460 Highway 146. I'm going to hand that back to you and ask if you can tell us what that has to do with Mr. Foster's real estate ownings.
He's on the tax records as the owner, and I had it listed for sale.
Okay. Do you know if he actually owns it, or does someone else own it?
To my knowledge, it's marked on the tax records. To my knowledge, it's Matt's money.
Okay. So it's something similar to, as you described, 705 Bay and the Texas Texas Avenue property. It's another one where your understanding is that Mr. Wiggins provided Mr. Foster the money to purchase the property.
Correct.
The property that is in the red folder, what is the address?
1460 Highway 146.
Is it currently one of your listings?
No, it is not.
When was it a listing of yours?
It's been a couple years ago. I'd have to look at the dates of when it was actually listed. I've had it for several years because it just was overpriced.
At whose direction did you list it?
Matt and Mark's,
Mark also told you to list it?
yes.
And why did the listing expire?
Listing had expired, and then a situation happened, I don't remember, that a company wanted to lease part of the property so much a month. And so I had asked Matt about it, and he said, probably sounds like a good deal. It's just sitting there. Then, I guess, my understanding, Mark drove by, saw them there, said it was his property, not Matt's, and for me to take my sign down.
Okay, that,
Yes, I did.
when someone was on the property, you say Mr. Foster drove by?
Yes.
Were you on the property with prospective buyers?
No.
Okay, this is just something you heard
From Mark, yes.
from Mark, that there was somebody on his property, and he told you to take your sign down.
Yes.
Because he didn't want to sell it? Was that the impression he left you?
He said it was his property, it wasn't Matt's, and for me to take my sign down.
Okay. So, was the property rented during the term that you had it listed?
No,
Did you ever collect any rent money on it?
no.
Do you know if Matt collected any rent money on it?
I don't believe so.
Was it ever rented to your knowledge?
I think Mark had leased it, or I don't know if it was even a lease, but there was a gravel company that I think used it for a little while and had their sign out there. I don't know if Mark got rent from that or not, I don't know.
But you didn't get any money, you didn't collect it for anyone?
No.
You also brought another file with you, 309-310 third list, is what it says. Would you look at that and tell me what that file contains?
They're listing agreements to list 309 and 310 3rd Street, to list them for lease, commercial lease.
And what is on 309-310 3rd Street?
That is currently Allen's Swamp Shack.
Okay. And were you instructed to obtain a lease on that property?
I was instructed to list it to obtain a lease, yes.
And who gave you those instructions?
Matt said him and Mark want to put the properties up for lease.
Okay. Can I see the exhibits a minute, please?
This one,
The ones that are marked there.
these.
Redirect your attention to Exhibit 16. That describes property at 310 Texas Avenue. Is that the same as the property that you referred to as
Yes.
309, 310 3rd?
Yes, sir.
Is Texas Avenue 3rd Street also?
I believe so.
When you listed leases, how do you do that? How do you list a lease? You can do it just like if you have property for sale? You can put it on MLS?
Not if it's, two different ways. If it's a commercial piece, it can go on to the commercial part of the MLS. I use a different company called LoopNet, which is a commercial listing site.
But in this list, there is in your file, the green hardback, as it relates to 309, 310 3rd Street, there are copies of commercial real estate listing agreement, correct?
Correct.
And it says it's an exclusive right to lease, correct?
Okay.
Does it say that on that form?
It does say that.
Okay, you're familiar with that form, right?
Yes, sir.
And you prepared the one that's in your file here, did you
Yes,
not?
sir.
And you initialed Mr. Foster's initials to it, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Did you have his permission to do that?
Yes.
You brought with you another green-colored hardback file cover that is style 705 Bay Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Those are your records, some of which we have copies of that we've introduced today, is that right?
Yes.
And it contains emails just like the ones you looked at earlier.
Yes.
In one email in your file that you brought with you today, dated Thursday, October 15, 2009 at 5:18 p.m., there is an email to you from this Fred Badia saying, okay, good deal. Is the notary going to accompany the judge to your office, Alana? You remember that?
Yes.
And then he said also, can you wire the money instead of overnighting the funds? The seller would like to be funded tomorrow. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. How was the money wired?
That I don't know, I mean, because I did not go to closing, but to my knowledge, there's a copy of the check from Texas First Bank. So I don't know if a check might have been overnighted versus wired. I do not know how it funded.
So you don't know if it was wired or the check, a copy of which we have, was sent to them?
Correct.
And I'm going to show you page 4 of it that's in your file of an exhibit that we have before us. I'll need the exhibits back. Thank you. I'll refer you back to Exhibit 10 to your deposition. You remember me asking questions about that?
Yes.
Will you look at your file and tell me if a copy of Exhibit 10 exists in your file?
Yes.
And that's the file from your office, right?
Yes.
And is it still your testimony that you knew nothing about the lawsuit or why there was a release and hold harmless agreement involved in this transaction?
Yes, I do not know what this is for. It is in my file. It has nothing to do with me closing a transaction. A lot of times the banks send over their forms. They want it signed. I don't scrutinize them. I just get them signed. This was also signed at closing. This was not something that was signed prior to closing or in my office. This was all done at the title company when Mark signed. I probably never saw this prior to closing. It probably came in part of the docs after closing that they sent to me.
What has Matt Wiggins told you about that lawsuit?
I have not heard anything about this lawsuit. I don't know what this is about.
Did you and Matt talk about your testimony before you came here today?
We discussed a little bit.
What did y'all discuss?
I wanted to know what to expect, how long, et cetera. I've never done this before.
Right. What did he tell you that you should expect?
He just told me to answer the questions and be honest.
Okay. Did he discuss with you about his desire to get the properties back?
No.
Did he tell you that he was going to countersue the Fosters?
No.
Did he tell you that he had sent them a 1099 demanding that he be allowed to take off his taxes the money that he, quote unquote, loaned the Fosters as a loss?
No. The only thing we discussed is procedures here. What do I need to expect?
What else did he tell you then?
Today, just answer the questions, tell the truth.
Okay, we'll take just another shorter break.
The time is 4:26 p.m. We are off the record. The time is 4:33 p.m. We are on the record.
Alana, so we have in front of us 5 sets of documents from your, is there 5 or 4? Yeah, there's 5 sets of documents from your office, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is this all of the records that you have in your office? Did you make a diligent search to see if these are all of the records that you have in your office of transactions in which Mark Foster and Matt Wiggins were involved?
To my knowledge, I looked through everything, past boxes and everything.
Okay. You mentioned that you went to Sterling Bank because Matt recommended you talk to Frank Law, is that right?
Yes.
And have you continued to use Frank Law as a banker?
Yes.
And would you consider him a friend?
Acquaintance.
Acquaintance? Is he do you know if he's a friend of Matt Wiggins?
He is.
And when you went to Sterling Bank, you went there, I believe you said, to obtain a loan so you could buy the property where Waterside is that right?
Correct.
Did Matt Wiggins accompany you there?
No, he did not.
Did you just call up Frank Law and ask him for an appointment?
I would assume.
Or did Frank Law call you and say that Matt Wiggins told him to call you?
I think I called Frank, if I recall. I really don't remember.
So you went over there and you filled out whatever the loan application looked like?
Yes.
And at that time, how much did you ask to borrow?
I don't recall. I'd have to look. I do not know the amount.
How much do you owe today?
I would have to, again, look, because I just redid those. I don't know the total amount, maybe $350.
Okay. And going back to this property on 146, let's see, it was property I think that you had prepared a lease.
A listing for lease?
Yes. Was that in this one? Or?
Probably that green one right there. Yeah,
Okay,
list.
no, that's on what is currently called
Allen's
the Swamp Shack.
Yeah, and you're
Okay.
looking for,
The property on 146 that you testified you prepared a lease for. Is that in there?
yes, the commercial land. Yes.
Okay. And this is a lease that Matt Wiggins told you to prepare, correct?
A listing for lease,
That Matt told you to prepare.
Matt and Mark. He said,
Mark told you that too?
He said, Mark and I want to list the property on 146.
But Mark didn't tell you to prepare this listing, did he?
He did not, but he helped me put a sign up,
Mark Foster went out and helped you put the sign up?
or instructed one of his guys to do so, yes.
Okay. Was he wanting to lease it for revenue? Was he going to try to make some money on it?
This property was for sale, not for lease.
Oh, okay. So he helped you put the for sale sign up?
Yes, one of his employees did.
This is a different piece of property.
Okay. Is not this a different piece of property?
That's Alana, I think that's Alana Swamp Shack.
This is 1460 Highway 146, the land for sale.
Okay.
That was for sale.
All right. And is this the land where there was some type of a gravel operation going on?
Yes.
And you obtained, or somehow or another, you were contacted by the people about moving on the gravel operation?
No.
Did you ever speak to anybody that was going to lease it?
I spoke to a company that wanted to lease it just for the land to put their, I think they did some type of jackhammering, and they needed a solid surface to do that. And so they contacted me about leasing it. I did ask Matt about it. I said, who it belongs to, you and Mark. And I told the guys it'd probably go ahead. We're going to do month to month and to send a check to my office. And since then, gave that check to Mark Foster and contacted Mark with their contact information so they can make arrangements with Mark, so Mark to get the future payments.
All right. Would you dispute the statement if Mark Foster said that when he called and told you to take your sign off his property, that sort of was the time that your friendship with the Fosters was damaged?
Yes.
It upset you, didn't it?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
No questions at this time. Reserved for trial.
Thank you. Thank you.
The time is 4:39 PM. We are off the record.
Did you want a copy of the transcript?